Not everything works perfectly. Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to the very, very first treasure hunting convoy interview. I'm very excited. We've got our good friend, Paul. You can't see him yet because I've made sure that it's focused on me. So just pulling up my notes here. What you were supposed to see was a little tile in the beginning that said, you know, welcome and everything like that, a little extra layer of quality. But since there isn't anybody technically here yet, we're just going to edit this part out. So let me introduce you to Paul. Paul has been a eBay reselling expert since 1999. All right. Now, that's a long time ago. A lot of people don't even think that eBay's been around that long, but yes, they have. Okay. Paul started out just doing a few things here and there. He started out very small, but then started building more and more over time. We'll get into that in a little bit, but he's also a CPA. He knows about Uncle Sam and his sticky fingers. Now, we're not going to get into anything about that unless he wants to, but just to give you the context of the type of person that he is. He's smart. He's been doing this for a while, and as a CPA, he's like, I want to keep doing this, right? I mean, there's been lots of CPAs that I've talked to who just understand numbers so well that they're like, no. That's a bad idea. No, this is a good idea. So I always watch people like that who have that mindset, right? They just know what keeps making money. And if he just keeps doing it and his CPA brain says keep going, then I know I'm going to keep listening with both ears. So let's not stand on ceremony. Let's go ahead and put the camera over to Paul. Paul, how are you?
Hi, Zane. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good, good.
Thanks for having me here.
Hey,
I'm new with this, so I'm learning a lot from you in just participating in this. Thank you very much.
Now, I did mention also in the group that we do have a secret guest. Now, here's the thing with Hangouts. I don't understand why this is. As the host, I can mute people, but I cannot unmute them. So, Marc, if you could unmute yourself and say hi and show yourself as the secret guest. Oh.
Hi, can you see me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's always a plus. No, I've actually been doing eBay since about 99 myself. And I've done, my background's coming from public relations, marketing, journalism. And I kind of just took it from that field and merged it into the idea of reselling.
Very nice. Very nice. So Marc is an admin of the Treasure Hunting Convoy, and it's a group on Facebook that I made. And like I said, if the presentation screen worked like it was supposed to, you'd see this awesome screen that said, you should join the Facebook group. Click somewhere. But I'm just going to tell you, right? Usually there's going to be a link in the description. And I'd also like to encourage all of you that are watching live or the broadcast, if you look up into your browser window, you'll see right there in the URL right there. If you click on that and you share that, then you'll be doing us a great favor, because sharing this video will help people go, maybe I should join the Facebook group, because you totally should. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on there. So let's get past some more of this housekeeping stuff. Now, I also want to encourage you to join the Facebook group, because Paul has even shared some sourcing tips, some really good sourcing tips, and even some pre-sourcing tips. And the only thing that you can't get back, folks, is time. So he did this really, really cool video. I already made a whole bunch of notes, so even if you don't want to watch the video, you can just read my notes. But he talks about some steps that are very, very crucial that will save you a whole bunch of time. You just let your fingers do the walking, and then you go hop in your car and do some real walking. Paul and Marc, I'm sure you both have experienced something like that, where you spend a whole bunch of time and you're just like, man, if I would have just Googled it or something like that, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this interview. I've had some time to talk to Paul, and the main focus here is there was this deal that went south, and I was just like, oh man, Paul, that is awful, but can I interview you about that? Because a lot of people could get some benefit from going, okay, well, that's where I can learn from his mistakes, and he also learned from it as well. In fact, when he shared the picture, there were some other pictures in there that showed how focused he was. I mean, I saw organization of files and things like that. And in a business like this, you have to stay organized. You absolutely have to stay organized. So let's go ahead and jump into that, Paul. Walk us through this experience of getting this deal and then going, I don't know about that, right? Because you were telling me there was a lot of other people going, oh yeah, you're getting such a great deal, right?
Yes. If you don't mind, let me sort of give
Sure.
you the backstory of how I got to that moment.
Yes, let's do that. Yes.
Was a mistake in retrospect. I used to work for Sarasota County government as an information systems auditor, and I got to get to know a lot of people throughout the entire county and get to know all the different types of government operations. And one of the things I learned about was what happens to the stuff that is purchased and is no longer needed, becomes obsolete, they just have too many of, broken, whatever. It goes to a government auction that's done online. Wow, that's sort of cool. I check and look and like, wow, here's a whole stack of laptops and the auction closes at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. That doesn't seem like a real great time to be doing that. I want to get in on this deal. I asked, got permission, like, yeah, that's not a conflict of interest because it's open to the public. And so I bid on them, bought them, and even sold one of the laptops to my boss for her daughter.
No way, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I think I paid $40 for a laptop. They were worth like $200. And it's because there just wasn't enough eyes on the auction, basically, and the timing of ending on 9 o'clock on Sunday morning really isn't a good time to be doing that. But hey, that worked out for me. And I grew from there, and then my boss resigned, and a new manager was appointed, and she and I didn't see eye to eye, and my days there were numbered. And I decided, well, been sort of successful with this auction stuff on the side. I have no income now, and so I think I'm gonna give this a try full time. Did that, did pretty well. Expanded to buying auction stuff at other local government agencies like school districts and the Tampa bus system, Hillsborough Area Regional Transit. And I thought I found a steal of a deal. Different agencies do things differently, where Sarasota has great pictures and their stuff is actually pretty good. Pinellas County Schools, it's a bunch of junk that should have been put in a landfill 20 years ago, but they had to cling on to it and like make it work and scrape by with what they've got, unfortunately. And by the time they really do get rid of it, it's really just ragged out and broken and a bunch of junk. So I don't buy too much from them at all. But Hillsborough Area Transit rarely does auctions. The one time I did it before, they're like, here's a box of like 50 cell phones. I show up here like, here's 90 cell phones. Okay.
Wait, so like when they say it was a box of 50 and then you got 90, like you didn't have to pay extra for it. Like
no, they just suck at doing inventory.
That's awesome. Okay.
And other times I've been there like, where are the color printers? Oh, yeah. How about these routers? Like, okay.
Bureaucracy in action. I get it.
There were no pictures at all. They just had like a Excel spreadsheet from their accounting department of like, here's a list that like the parts department says they no longer need for buses that they gave away to the neighboring county that's poor and has no money to buy buses. And so I look up like 5, 6 things, and I'm like, whoa, there's money. There's, turbocharger. That's $500. Here's something else. Like, clearly this is worth some money. I'm looking no further. I put my bid in. I win. I pay $400. I show up with my little Harbor Freight trailer that came in a box and I put together, taking all day one day. And they laughed at me like, come take a look at what you have here. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I'll be back tomorrow. And I go down the street to Professional Movers and end up paying $850 for a moving truck and 2 men and a forklift to load a flatbed semi-trailer full of boxes of brand new parts for buses and 100 brake drums, which were not on the list. And each of these brake drums weighs 100 pounds, brand new, US made. And I look it up on the Excel spreadsheet, like those were like $220 a piece. Whoa, that's maybe this might be paying off my house. All right, okay. And
so if I understand this right, so it was exciting because you got the bid, and then it was like a little disheartening because you're like, oh wow, this is a lot of stuff. But then you started looking at it, you're like, oh wait, so it was a bit of an emotional roller coaster. It sounds like, right? Is that what I'm picking up here?
Yes, because I thought, oh my gosh, I've hit the jackpot. I'm going to be paying off my house with the profits on this stuff. Because all I saw was an Excel spreadsheet. I had no concept of how much room this stuff takes up. And in the end, it required a 30 by 12 storage unit with a 16-foot ceiling. And the stuff to be forklifted in there all the way to the top, to the ceiling.
Oh.
And it turns out that, like, for the things I looked up, they actually did sell. You know, those were good things. But I was burdened with literally tons of other stuff that took me 3 years to figure out. I can't sell this. I've tried. I'm wasting too much time on stuff without success that I could be putting into things that have a certain return. And I need to, like, cut this off. And I ended up, after 3 years of paying about $280 a month storage, spending days working overnight, because I had a daytime job at this point when I finally threw in the towel. And I had to, like, manually climb up these stacks of pallets to the ceiling with a ladder, carry 100-pound brake drums one by one down a dumpster that was put there by a scrap yard that said, okay, we're going to drop this trailer off tonight. We're going to pick it up tomorrow morning. We got overnight to load this thing up. Yeah, that's how I got rid of the brake drums.
That sounds like an intense workout, or like the precursor to "This is how Paul died."
Exactly. I have thought that so many times, where I'm like, I have cafeteria tables stacked upon cafeteria tables 3 tall that I got for like $2 a piece. Like, well, that's cheap storage. But I'm like, this could be the death of me. You know?
I wonder how many other resellers are watching this and going, yeah, I've been there. I've wondered if all this could topple over on me, and then no one would know about me.
Yeah. Oh, there are lots of times where I make sure I've got my phone with me in case I need to call for help. I actually have a loft in one of my storage units, and a thing that's called a pallet stacker. It's sort of like a forklift that, like, the only assistance it does is up and down. Anything else, you're on your own. You got to push the thing. And so I've got that thing parked in a corner because it's way too big for a storage unit to be moving around inside. Duh. Again, that's the drawback of bidding on stuff over online that you're just judging from a picture. I thought, oh, that makes so handy.
Yeah, no, that makes me think of a question here. And you started small, and you started with software, and this was just, you know, the lemon of all lemons for you. But my question is, do you still do surplus? I mean, did that stop you?
Absolutely. No, okay. I just learned what to do. I was buying stupid stuff like laptops, servers, printers, stuff like that, real cheap. And I can't move that stuff fast enough, and it depreciates pretty quickly. That stuff does not go up in value sitting in storage for a couple of years. Medical equipment, on the other hand, I've learned that's where I get my own runs.
Interesting.
The Department of Health, when they retire equipment from service, dental equipment, X-ray machines, vital signs monitors, I get home runs with those. Pharmacy pill counters, and it's amazing. You just drop in like a whole bottle of like 200 pills and counts them just like that. Yeah.
Okay, so the again, if anybody is watching, I would think one of your biggest things is that if you're looking into any surplus, an Excel spreadsheet that's very vague, maybe you don't want to bid on that, or maybe if you, I mean, but there's no way out. You can't say I can't move all this stuff. Here's your money back. You can't do anything like that.
I could have forfeited my deposit, and in retrospect, that would have been the wise thing to do. But when I showed up there and the mechanics were like, "You got a smoke and steal of a deal. Look at this. You could take that to a scrapyard and like make yourself like $500 right now." And I'm just like, look at Excel spreadsheet, like, 100 of these things times $220 a piece original cost. I'm not scrapping them. I should have. I really should have. That would have been the smartest thing to do, is to have that moving company take that stuff straight to the scrapyard. Because I later found out that the federal government subsidizes the cost of buses and the parts. And so no one will buy them at any cost, even for $1, because they get free government money. And also, are you going to risk your job if you're buying parts? Are you going to be like, let's go with the guy that's selling crap out of his garage on eBay?
I hate to laugh. I'm sorry. It's a tragedy. You know what they say, comedy is tragedy plus time. So here we are. Now, Mark, I noticed that you had unmuted your mic. Did you want to jump in here?
Well, yeah, I've actually been in the same boat as Paul, because I've gone to a lot of those surplus auctions, and there's like one company that like the National Labs contracts to, and with its computers, it's pretty much, you know, big equipment, anything you can possibly imagine. Yeah, I overbought one day without thinking about it, and luckily I was able to fill my car. And thankfully I didn't actually get into the same type of situation of having to hire a flatbed truck like Paul did. Obviously I tipped my cap to him in his definite adventure there. But one of the things that I've learned, especially with surplus auctions, and especially around here, for example, where I'm at in New Mexico, with it being so much on the federal tit, so to speak, to try to resell it here locally is extremely hard, because guess what? There's even more people who are actually here who buy that stuff even cheaper probably than I do, you know, and that's one of the things I've always run into here, and that's why I've ended up having to push it out otherwise.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so again, for the sake of recording, I muted Paul, but you know how Hangouts are, so you have to unmute yourself when it's time for you to talk. So now it sounds like surplus is still a good game. I want to ask, if you don't mind, would you mind telling us maybe one of like that was your worst? Do you have like a best story? Like, you know, this is like, you know, maybe you got something really good and you're like, oh, no way.
Yeah, I have a couple stories. One of the earliest ones was, and in retrospect, I don't know what I was thinking. When I was new at this, I was just like willing to take on anything. And I think I bought, it was 40 room darkening shades that came out of a building I was familiar with that was torn down, and it had been this really modern building that was all environmentally friendly, and it had all these green certifications and stuff. And I don't know why they tore it down, but they took out these room darkening shades, and I don't know why I bought them. I think they might have been like $20 or something like that. And I'm just like, what the hell? I'll figure something out. And this was back when I was trying to minimize my storage expense at any cost. So I go into a small storage unit, do that for a little while, and then like, this is getting expensive. I got to find a cheaper solution. So I take all my stuff to a different storage place down the street and put it on the second floor where it's cheaper. And I've got to walk all these shades up like into an elevator and there's 40 of these things, and I'm doing it at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and one of them gets the cord stuck on the elevator door, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just gonna keep walking, and out pops this motor, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I look at it like, French made. Oh, let me look that up. Oh, that was like $220 each motor.
No, each motor.
Each motor.
That's
And
awesome.
I scrapped the metal tubes that they were on. They were roller shades on like an aluminum tube with a motor inside. And stupid me thought, the only people that would want that, you have a commercial building or something. How am I going to sell that? Let me scrap the aluminum. And I got like a couple $100 for that. And I folded up all the fabric, which I still to this day have and don't know what to do with. And then later I start seeing the motor sell, and I Google the addresses like, it's rich people with like ocean view condos. Oh, that need the motor for their automatic windows.
Okay.
And the tubes, my house would have those damn things too. But,
it kind of sounds like a little bit like the tip that you gave us all in the group. You should all join the group, which is in the link below. You had mentioned something, and I won't even mention the word, but there is a certain type when an item no longer is in a store, it is considered mole, and people love those. It sounded a little bit like that, right?
A little bit, yeah. I think the lesson learned there was don't take things at face value. I thought room darkening shades. What parts are inside the things that are being auctioned that might be worth more? One little part of something might be worth more than the whole. Yeah. You'll find that eventually if you do enough government surplus stuff where you learn to look beneath the surface for value.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, Mark, I had noticed that you had unmuted your mic. Was there? Do you have a particular win? Like, oh, that was awesome. Anything like that?
The last win that I had actually was about 3 months ago, as a matter of fact. One guy came to me with a literal garage full of sports memorabilia. And I got there and I said, all right, what do you got? Guy opens up his door. And I went, and I just kind of stood there with the wife and we went looking. We're like, holy mother of St. Peter. And we ended up, it took 6 van loads to get it all out of there. It was that big. It was an hour drive from where I'm at in Albuquerque to north of Santa Fe. And it was just, I had to do that 6 times, kept unloading, and it was just like, it took me surprisingly only of about 3 or 4 days to go through the entire lot and get it already pieced out on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm still piecing out.
Yeah, I think I saw that on your profile. The storage unit and the van and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And that was one of the trips.
Hot diggity. That is fantastic. That is impressive.
And I was only into it for guess how much?
$1,400.
Oh, nowhere near, my friend.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a lot.
Nowhere near.
$14?
I'll say $600.
You're close, Paul. I was actually into it for $450.
Wow.
And it was probably one of the better hauls that I've done. Actually, it was probably the best haul I've done this year. However, my back didn't agree with that. Once we ended up flipping it out, we brought some of it here. We've put some of it in storage, and I had people. I can't tell you how many messages I had on Facebook Marketplace from the moment I put it up at 10 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock the next morning.
Oh, wow. Did you get any kind of bidding war going on?
Not necessarily a bidding war. It was just more of a, wow, you really have this, or wow, you're going to get rid of it for that price? Because it was just cards upon cards. But I pulled out a lot of what was actually worth it. And I'm still selling what's worth it now. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of autographs and, higher end sports stuff. I mean,
Wow.
Hank Aaron's, there was a lot of local stuff in there. Because the minor league teams that were here back in the 90s, and it was just rare, just absolute oddball stuff. I mean, yeah, that's always been my base bread and butter, but it's one of those things where when the guy offered me the lot for, it was originally 300, and then obviously it took me the cost of a $150 to rent a van, and then 6 times of traveling back and forth. It was definitely an experience to be had, which, thankfully, yeah, I'm still doing now. Would I do that again? The deal's got to be really, really good.
Well, okay. So that, I mean, that's Marc's, major win. And so now I'm going to ask Paul a question, but I'd like to also circle that same question back to Marc. I'm making sure I said those names right. Anyway, doesn't matter. We'll fix it in post. So, Paul, here's the question. If you could jump into a DeLorean, hit 88 miles an hour, and go back in time and talk to yourself, what is the number one thing you would say? Don't do this one thing. What would that be?
That would be taking on more inventory, far more inventory than you could potentially list. You only have so many hours in the day, and great deals are always there to be found. And it's easy to get greedy and think, oh my God, this is, pennies on the dollar. And like Marc was explaining, he's got a lot of work ahead of him with all that stuff, with 6 trips worth of stuff. The price you pay is not just the cash you pay, it's the value of your time that you had to put into this. And with
that's good. Yes.
that storage unit full of bus parts was just the most, I guess, a teaching moment for me, because I have only so many hours in the day. Am I going to put my time into selling stuff that is so obscure and so unlikely to sell that it might have a 5% chance of selling? And if I do sell it, great, I've made $200 or something on one item. Or can I put my time into things that have a 95% chance of selling within 5 days, and they'll make me $50? Well, I learned the hard way that putting my time into the wrong things will deplete my retirement savings, my bank account. I had to go get a job again. And my biggest fear was I'm going to lose it all. If I can't pay the rent on these storage units, all of the money that I have had in savings that is now invested in inventory gets lost. It's gone. I'm done. And so the lesson is, don't buy more inventory than you can handle. The overhead cost of storing it will kill you. You only have so many hours to process that stuff. Yeah, so that would be my lessons.
That's an extremely good point, because and it was very powerful what you said. I mean, it's not just the money that you pay; it's the time, and the time is nothing that you're able to get back. So, be shrewd, be prudent, right? So, Marc, same question to you. If Doc could, be like, oh, you got to go back in time and tell yourself something, what would that be?
Really rethink that deal that I just made this past time. Out of pocket cash, it's like $450. If you got to take in the result of time, you're looking upwards $1,000, $1,200. Have I pulled that out of that lot? Oh yeah. I knew I could do it, but it wasn't going to be an overnight thing. I mean, I was lucky to turn, I would say 70% of it out in 72 hours.
Whoa, how much in how much time?
That's good.
72 hours. I mean, literally, I basically put everything up, and with all those messages I got on Facebook Marketplace, because obviously I wasn't going to sit there and list it all on eBay. I mean, there was just no way on God's green earth. I mean, you know, and that's why I pulled what I did out of it, because that stuff, the premium stuff, got listed on eBay. You know, I was trying to take into account of how, you know, the auction, how many listings I had every month, plus, you know, my time. I mean, if I could sit there and do 5 to 10 premium auctions a day, in theory, I'm actually making more money.
Excellent. So the next question is actually a bit of a 180, right? So we'll go to Paul and ask him that, and then back to Marc. So if you could go back in time and tell you one thing that you should do, right? So we've talked about what you definitely shouldn't do. What should you do? And again, these are the questions that I'm sure people are thinking, like, what should I be doing? That's the worst thing I could do. But what should I be focusing on? Paul, take us away.
That's an easy one. The thing that gives me the most financial stability is selling items that I can purchase at will, at a good price, brand new. They're the same thing. They're often called replenishables. So I have some items that, in fact, I don't even sell it on eBay because people saw my success and started selling and competing against me. So that item is only sold on Amazon, and to this day, I am the only seller of it. Because it seems like the Amazon market customers are less likely to be entrepreneurial and think, hey, I can do it too.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot too.
Thing and get out and have it in their hands. Replenishables. Yeah, there are things I have that I sell a couple of every day, like clockwork, without me having to take pictures. I just slap a label on the package and put it out for the UPS guy to pick up. And I would like to have more of those. They fizzle out after a while, especially if they're like a closeout or a clearance item that you can only buy, you know, 100 of, and that's the end. They're done. But if you're always on the lookout for another replenishable, and you build that up where you just have maybe 10 things that are selling one per day for each of those 10 different things you have, and you're making like maybe 20 bucks a piece on each, there's $200 a day for putting labels on packages. And occasionally calling or, you know, emailing, whatever, to get more supply. I have that suppliers, when they ran out, they're like, oh, we're out, but maybe you can get them on eBay. Like, yeah, I was selling them on eBay. Thank you very much. That was
that's great. Okay, so I'm actually maybe can I unmute in control? Oh, finally, we've been given the functionality to unmute in control room. Thank you, gods of Google. It's been years. All right, cool. So now I can unmute you as well. So, Marc, same question. What would you tell yourself in the past? What should you have done had you been able to tell yourself that?
Kind of like what I do in relation to playing the stock market. Do your research first. Hold on to certain things that you know will have the value potential. You know, be it, for example, I'm doing a lot of retail arbitrage as of late, where I'll go to a store and I'll buy up 5 or 6 remote control cars that are on sale for, you know, let's say $15 a piece, that have a resale value on like eBay, for example, for like 45 or 50. And even if I get, let's say, you know, 40 each, I'm still in the black on that. You know, when I tell myself to slow down in relation to what I buy, what I research, it's more of, don't get rid of stuff too quickly, but make sure that whenever I do, I'm pulling a profit, at least somewhat of a profit, out of each item that I'm putting out the door.
That definitely makes sense. I can hear that.
I like that.
So to that end, now we're about 35 minutes into this, and usually I like these to go, you know, naturally as long as they go. But 45 minutes is usually about where we want to end, unless we have more viewer questions and things like that. So we're getting towards the end, towards final thoughts. But I wanted to ask both of you, for the sake of those watching in the future, when Paul and I talked about this in the first place, it was one of those things that I just didn't really think about. But I came from the internet marketing world, so I just know that there's all kinds of events that you could go to, but I didn't really think about reseller events. So again, we're going to start with Paul and then over to Mark. Are there any events beyond just your basic, like, local meetup? I mean, are there like big, top level, like, oh, you always want to go to this eBay event or this reseller event or anything like that? Paul, what would you recommend for a newbie if they're like, well, I want to go and rub shoulders with other people in the reseller space? What events, if there are any, would you recommend?
Well, for the newbie, I have a different answer than I have for myself. And that is, there are a lot of influencers in the social media world that specialize in reselling on eBay, Amazon, Poshmark, Mercari, all those. And some of them have quite large followings. There are two of those people, Rally Roots, Ryan and Allie, have a very popular YouTube channel. I think they're closing in on 40, 50,000 subscribers. And they're just 45 minutes, maybe, no, 30, north of me up the road. And Casey Rockstar Flipper is another 45 minutes north of me. He has over 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Or maybe I'm confusing. He has a very large YouTube channel. I know he has over 100,000 in his Facebook group, Thrifter Reseller World, and about 350 people in his VIP Reseller World, which is a paid group that allows you to just mingle with the people that take this very seriously. But these people have local meetups in various places where they may travel, both in their home area, like Tampa, or with Ryan and Allie Roots next week, they're going to Chicago. And I think there's 20 people signed up to meet up at a bar and get to know one another. And I've been to a meetup with both Casey and Allie and Ryan, and it was great fun. Great people, all like-minded people. That is where I would start as someone who's relatively new. Now, for the more experienced people that are taking this serious and they've got the money to invest, that would be eBay Open in Las Vegas every year. I went a couple years ago, and the price was only like $250 or something, and you get an amazing party with a live band. I think it was Bare Naked Ladies.
I love Bare Naked Ladies. It's like one of my favorite bands during in high school.
They made a custom song. I can put it up and maybe send you a link. They made an eBay song.
I love it. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. But there's a lot of training and conference and all that. The best part is meeting the other people. You meet such fascinating people that can teach you really valuable information. I met a guy that sells Steinway pianos. He doesn't sell a whole lot, but when he sells one, it's like 135,000. I learned how the big guys have take precautions against unjustified bans from eBay where you do the wrong thing or someone is trying to attack your business. I know, I've been told, here's what the big guys do, because you don't want eBay to just shut the doors on your company where you've got, employees and you've got payroll to meet and stuff like that. You can't have just eBay just like, that's it, you're done. Because eBay does act like that. And so they've told me the tricks of the trade. That was worth flying to Vegas alone for that. I think it's a 3-day conference. I didn't go last year because I was mad that they pushed it where if you don't sign up super early, we're gonna double the price. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. In retrospect, I should have. Because even at $450 a ticket, the value is worth it. It really is. So those are
awesome. All right, so question back over to Mark. Mark, are there any events that you know of for newbies, and then also experts that you would recommend?
The one thing that New Mexico is to a totally different ballpark for stuff like this. You're going to run into your resellers, but they're not necessarily your top cream of the crop who are wanting to make a business out of it. They're wanting to make a few bucks under the table so that they don't have to sit there and pay taxes on it, which is just downright shameful. And that's one of the things I run into. One of the things I've done as a result of all that is much of what I do is a lot of online research and just looking at a lot of the groups to sit there and really get a good idea of, what I should be doing. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. It was 3 months ago when I decided to finally get a label printer. Honestly, it was the best $150 I have ever spent. And
oh, really? Like again, I'm sorry to stop you, but I mean, something as simple as a label printer. You're just like it was like a night and day difference for you.
Oh, huge! I looked at the cost of it, for what I would spend on an ink cartridge versus what I would spend, Yep, there you go. Right, Paul's got it right. But yeah, and mine's over at my actual desktop computer, so I can't say, oh, that's another good one. I've actually got a Rollo, which doesn't work with eBay, but that's beside the point. I found that using it with things like Pirate Ship, for example, actually work so much better, and it saves immense amounts of time in relation to addressing labels. It's just slap it on there, throw it in the pile, and let the postman pick it up.
Very nice. So from what I'm gathering here, Paul recommends that there's a couple of movers and shakers out there might be worth going to their events, but the real pros are they should be going to like eBay Open. And Mark, you're saying doing some more in-depth research online and seeing how that's all working out. That and getting a label printer.
Right.
Right.
And the one thing is I found that there it goes again. One of the things that especially with the label printer is that it's kind of like it's printing money. Every time you hear it print, every time you hear it print, you're just like, the sound of money. And it's the simple things that have made this business a lot easier versus to sit there and rely on a printer, which I've already killed one this year. So had to take it out back and shoot it. But with the actual, things like the label printer, finding things like Pirate Ship, for example, so you're not sit there enslaved.
Yeah, sorry. So noob question here. What is Pirate Ship?
Pirateship.com. And
okay.
Basically it's kind of like stamps.com, but you don't have to pay a monthly fee for it.
Okay. That's where the clever name comes from.
Yeah. And when you go into it, it imports eBay, Amazon, and Shopify, for example. And when it imports all that, you can just sit there, click on the little thing, input length, width of the package, weight, boom, tells you how much. You hit buy, you hit print, boom, there's your label.
See, now I got to say, much like a teacher often learns more from their students than the other way around. That's one of the reasons why I love doing interviews like this. I always get, I think I get more than the viewer, which is why I always try and ask more questions than most interviewers. So, again, gentlemen, I thank you so much for your time. We're getting about to the 45-minute mark. Of course, I always like interviews like this to just continue flowing naturally. So if we go a little bit further, oh no, it's not a big deal. But I would like to start steering towards final thoughts. Again, we will start with Paul and then roll over into Mark. But Paul, is there anything that through this interview where you're thinking, maybe I want to bring up this or that? Any final thoughts that you want to leave us with before we go?
Yes, thank you. Marc actually reminded me of the need to concentrate on doing things more efficiently. Here's my little Dymo printer for Amazon labels. And here is my Zebra for shipping labels for UPS and the post office. Pirate Ship is a great resource. I'd also like to add to that is one of just a few places that you can get better prices on shipping than even eBay offers to top-rated sellers. It's called cubic rate pricing, where if your priority mail package is less than half a cubic foot, then you are charged based on the size of the box and not the weight. So if whatever you're selling doesn't fit in a flat rate envelope, which is going to be your cheapest, legal flat rate envelope, padded flat rate envelope, if those aren't going to work for you, and now you're on to like regional boxes or flat rate boxes, there's great potential if you have a small heavy thing like a battery for like a battery backup system, or other things that are small and heavy, you will pay less using Pirate Ship or Fit Shipper or Shippo. My preference is Fit Shipper because I'm friends with the developer and he charges $5 a month. And I think the user interface, ease of use, and the fact that the guy is like totally responsive to any kind of questions justifies the $5 a month that I pay. And one of the things that I was reminded of shortly before I came on was something that's sold here. Sometimes I am amazed of how I can sell stuff on eBay in spite of the stupid things I do. Here is, I sold an amplified phone I picked up at a garage sale for like $2. It sold for $25. I need to get consistency and have systems in place and do things methodically. Get up at a particular time in the morning and there's working hours, and I don't. And I could be so much more successful if I did. I have no picture of the phone. I put in that stock thing of like, sorry, because I was busy and I didn't have time to like attach the photos to the listing, but I wanted it to be live because I use InkFrog. And if I don't use InkFrog to put it out on eBay, InkFrog will pull in what I've posted via eBay. So if it's a draft, InkFrog's never going to see it. It's never going to pull it in. So I make it live on eBay. InkFrog pulls it in, and then I can attach the pictures. I never attached the pictures. That was 2 weeks ago. And the thing sold with no phone, no photos, and no description.
Imagine that's a hoot. You know? that is a hoot. I've been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, but I mean, how you explain it was just hilarious. Well done.
Thanks.
All right, so to that end, Marc, again, I posed the same question to you as you were going through and watching and stuff like that. Is there any final thoughts that you want to leave viewers with? Because both of you have been doing this since 1999. So any kind of final thoughts is going to be something that's going to be valuable to the end user.
Realize that you're not going to make money on this overnight. Realize that you will have to put hours upon hours of work into this. I've done, I mean, that's one of the things that I do. I'm always either, on my phone, or if I'm whatever, you're devoting yourself a lot to it, at least for the first 6 to 9 months. After the first 6 to 9 months, for example, it starts to get a lot more automated, especially when you get yourself to a point where you've structured your day where you get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is what I do, for example. And I'm reading emails and whatnot and processing orders until 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, I'm actually packing up my said orders. You know, it's that structure you have to have in a day. It's not, this is not something that you can just be like a day trader on the stock market, for example. You have to know this business. You have to get to know this business inside and out to really make good money.
I hear that. That totally makes sense. And when you think about it, truth is universal. You're gonna see the same things consistently over and over again in nature and science, et cetera, et cetera. And when I was doing a lot of marketing myself, I found myself in a very similar structure. You just have to you have to discipline yourself. You have to just follow, at the very least, follow through with your own plan.
And one other thing I'd want to add is the fact that when you go into this, have multiple streams of income available to you. I mean, even if it's a part-time job, it's a full-time job that you're doing, and then you're doing reselling 2 hours a night, eventually you'll see that kind of dwindle away. I mean, I've been self-employed for well over 10 years now myself. And it's just one of those things that you just keep picking up over time.
Well, okay, so those were the final thoughts. Now I want to give both of you are sharp individuals, and I want to give any opportunity, if you guys are working on something, if you want to drive traffic to a website, or maybe there's I don't know, maybe you got a book or something like that. Again, you don't have to, but is there anything that you might want to say, hey, I do this thing, so you should check it out, or I really like this guy, you should check this guy out? Any shout outs you want to do before we go, guys? We'll start with you, Paul.
Sure. I would like to shout out Casey, the Rockstar Flipper. He's on YouTube, and he's got a Facebook group called, I think, Thrifter Reseller World. And someday in the future, I will be finding a way to share my knowledge of individual income tax. I used to work for one of the largest CPA firms in the world in developing tax software used to do people's taxes. And although I'm not going to be doing any personalized, individualized tax work, advice, or counseling, consulting, nothing like that, but perhaps an ebook or something like that. Perhaps a basic intro course for free with a more in-depth version for a fee. If you're interested in that, send me an email to taxpro@gmail.com. Real easy, taxpro@gmail.com. And if you're interested in buying that email address, it's for sale.
Very, very nice. Very nice. Okay, so over to you, Marc. Of course, if you have any services that you yourself provide, you said you've been self-employed for a number of years. On top of that, you've also mentioned multiple streams of income. So I don't think that you necessarily, I'm pretty sure you practice what you preach. Do you have anything that you have, or even if you just want to give a shout out to somebody else?
Well, I have actually finished writing a book of basically PR for dummies, which for any reseller especially, it's a need. It's not published as of just yet, but I'm planning on publishing it here real soon, and it'll be available for sale on my website, markcollect.com.
Well, alrighty then. So we are just about to the hour mark, and I don't see any questions from the group. I pulled a few here and there and sort of just integrated them in, but I don't see any more. So we've done final thoughts and we've done shout outs, folks. My shout out will always be the same. Come and join the Facebook group. We've got Paul here. We've got Marc here. Marc's actually an admin. This is something, again, the whole point is I want to eventually get all of us into, RVs and driving all over the country. And I can see it in my mind. I can see a map of the United States, with just RVs everywhere, buying and selling items. It just seems so clear in my head, and it seems like the coolest thing since sliced bread. So honestly, if you think that my idea is anything remotely close to interesting, please join us in the group. Go ahead and click the link below. I'll make sure that, you know, when you click the link, you'll actually go straight to the Facebook group, and I'm not going to ask you any questions. I know Facebook groups are like, oh, well, answer these questions or something. No, I won't do that. I'll approve you, and we talk about some really, really cool stuff. Even if you're an expert, I promise you, you're going to learn some great stuff. And if you think this is cool and you want to share it with your friends and family and stuff like that, on YouTube, there's the share buttons. But if you just click the link, you know, the URL above and share that's all we're asking. So really appreciate your time. Give us a wave, everybody. Bye. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and click stop broadcast, but we'll still be here, and the three of us can chat. So, cool. Bye.